meeting of the 175th session of Literary and Scientific Society. Tonight's debate is "This House believes religion is a force for good," and I'm very surprised that our resident priest, Luke McGuire, is not speaking tonight. Before we get into the order of business, we will move on to council announcements. So if every council member would like to announce themselves, starting with James, our lovely secretary. Stand.
Hi. Well, I'll say hi. Hi.
Hi, James.
I'm James, I'm the secretary and I love my job.
Treasurer.
It's quite hard to follow that. I'm Daniel, I'm the treasurer. Please buy your membership, it's £5 and you can now buy it online, so please do that immediately.
Internal convener.
My name is Rory, I am your internal convener. I'm going to sit back down now.
External. And if you have announcements, please.
I do have an announcement.
Yes.
It's wonderful. I'm not going to stand up and sit down. I just need to check something very quickly so I don't make a mistake. Hi, my name is Fintan Lawler. I'm the external convener for this 175th session of the Literary and Scientific Society. The two announcements I actually have to make. One regarding the Irish Times competition. This is, I'm sure as many of you know, one of the most prestigious debating competitions on the island. The Society plans to send 6 teams as follows. The wonderful Todd McSparren and myself.
We're going to smoke them.
The illustrious Tom Burns and Dermot Hamill HLN. The fantastic Max Kieran and Daniel Toft. Adjectives, so please put forth your most wonderful adjective for the following teams: Keane O'Hagan and Ryan Kilgore. Rory McSparren and Jonathan Massey. And last but certainly not least, Cormac McSparren and Matthew Walker. Equally, on rather short notice, which seems to be the way that UCD likes to work at the moment, they have announced one of their first IVs, which is a competition where which we send you, the lovely students, to come and speak and hopefully thrash some UCD students. That is next weekend, and I apologise for the short notice, but anybody looking to take part, please either contact the page or contact me directly, and we'll try and organise that. Thank you.
I am the illustrious Tom Burns.
Our events officer is not here.
What?
No, you're Tom Burns.
He's the convener of children.
I thought you were done. Go on.
I'm the school's convener.
Are you done now?
Sure.
Our events officer is not here, but he did ask me to announce that we have our Stormont Mixer coming up on the 17th of October, and we also have a Jeffrey Donaldson Lit Talk on the 18th of October, so keep those dates in mind. There'll be more on social media about them coming up soon.
Next is our training officer.
So as of last Monday,
you're training now.
So I get about this council quicker than I get about Grindr. My name is
His name is Easy.
I'm spilling out of world-class university.
World leading university, thank you very much. I'm Dermot Hamill, HLM. The only member of the Literary and Scientific Society to have honours from 2 universities, but no degrees. So I will be training you up this year. Anybody that's interested in doing a training workshop, please come along to see me. We'll be hosting training workshops in the next few weeks. Also, to all of our Irish Times speakers, wherever you may be, you better sign up as members, pay your membership to Daniel, or he'll hunt you down, or you won't compete in the competition.
Or he'll kill you.
Also, there will be a meeting for any of you that are taking part soon in person to discuss the finer points of the competition. And yeah, if you want to get involved in training, learn how to debate, or if you're having your maiden speech, come along and see me and I'll give you some pointers.
Social officer.
Yes, I'm Sam, and I'm a social officer. Don't have any announcements because we already had a pub crawl on Tuesday. There will be announcements forthcoming. What? Oh yes, we're going to Lambrey's after this every evening.
Brilliant, and I'd like to welcome James Orchin up to read the minutes.
Highlight of my life. On the 28th of September 2023, according to what's written on the page here, the Queen's University Belfast Literary and Scientific Society convened for the second ordinary meeting of the 175th session for the motion, "This House regrets the left's embrace of identity politics." As usual, the meeting began with announcements. Madam President announced the price of membership and number debating societies. All councilmen then introduced themselves enthusiastically, is what the minutes say here. Following a reading of the minutes, the meeting moved to private members' business. Keir Robertson, did I get it right that time?
Yes, you did. Good.
I know I originally wrote Robinson as a joke, but then I was worried I would get it wrong, so I'll probably Robinson again. Brought up Doctor Who and asked if it should be cancelled. The answer is yes. Responses were heard from Jacqueline Bonner, who swore, Gavin Duranja, Keir Swale, HLM, Keir Robertson, again, Ryan Kilgore, and Ryan Hoey, HLM. He mentioned the Hollywood writers' strike. This shows you how dated these are, even a week out. Responses were heard from Noel Barnley, regrettably, Keir Swale, HLM, Grant Warren, Ryan Hoey, HLM, returning once again, Max Kieran, Aidan Moran, and Keir Robertson. Did I get it right again? Good. President's questions then took place. Roisin Keenan asked about some society. Madam President said she had paid up her membership for this society instead. Max Kieran asked about the Twilight films and asked if the President was Team Edward or Jacob. The President responded with Team Edward. I don't know what that means, but I understand it's a bad thing. Ryan Hoey HLM asked about the breakfast question. Madam President stated that she had had a full roast dinner for her breakfast. I mean, if there was one, there wouldn't be much to go around considering how many people are in your house. The President then condemned rugby. What? Apparently. Shame. Aidan Moran advertised for something. I don't know what that was. I didn't note it down. Madam President said she has a life. Jacqueline Bonner asked if the President liked cheese and wine. That is where one of our members of council is currently and doing something much better than being here at a wine and cheese event with French students. Maybe not better than being here. Madam President said she does like cheese and wine. Someone asked if she likes the Smiths in a very forceful way. I don't know who they were, they didn't give their name for the minutes. The answer was yes. The President asked if she would condemn Canada. The President said there wasn't enough time to list through her reasons for disliking Canada, I think. After President's questions, the vote on prior opinion... That's a rude gesture doing there, Madam President. After the President's questions, the vote of prior opinion was held. There were 22 votes for aye, 17 for nay, and 21 abstentions, so the proposition had it narrowly. First in the proposition was Grant Warren, HLM. He defined identity politics, which was used first by black socialist feminists against liberal feminism. Please don't mention that again. That was so much fun last year, that debate. And it is a contemporary term. He used the term woke once and then never said it again, thankfully. He argued that identity politics is an issue for the left because it has gotten into the place of class politics, its negative impacts on identity politics, and it has made cooperation between marginalised groups harder. He then said, and I quote, "We live in a society," end quote, which is increasingly open but not free. He decried cancel culture and the erosion of freedom. He cited the example of cancel culture. He extolled the virtues of academic freedom, and he stated that consensus pluralism is key and important. First in the opposition was Jonathan Massey. He began by countering the prior speaker on the narrowness of his argument. He argued that polarisation and that differences of opinion are needed for politics. Wow, profound thought there. He argued that countries that take culture out of their countries end up badly. He then invoked Godwin's law by stating that the proposition we're arguing in favour of Nazism and Maoism. We've created a new ideology here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. He also invoked the example of Jim Crow laws and the abolition of slavery as examples of identity politics. He then mentioned the French Revolution, and I got really angry. And stated it's important to promote people's goals and ideals. Second on the proposition was Jacqueline Bonner. She countered that the opposition were wrong in saying that the proposition do not see identity. She argued that the way the left uses identity is bad for politics. She gave the example of American politics. Oh no. She noted that many efforts in US politics fall short of the mark. We have all the time in the world to go through these. Sadly, we do. She cited the example of feminism in US politics, talked about gun laws, and then quoted BoJack Horseman about guns. And then she said that the left, oh, this is your bit here. So this was actually written while I was at the toilet by the president, so it is obviously not in any form of coherent English, which is quite scary considering she is a language student. Blah, blah, blah. She stated that missiles are Republican. Living in a shaved head and trust the Prime Minister. Second in the opposition was Tom Burns, a voice of reason at last. The left is a readjustment of politics, apparently. He argued that he has done research by watching Fox News. Was there ever a time when identity did not matter to politics? He argued that Bill Clinton was the best expression of non-identity politics. It's the economy, stupid, not the other quote, apparently. People were seen in terms of their economic output, not their social and political importance. 2008 was apparently the most important year in world history, according to Tom. Is this? Okay. The economy matters, but he argued identity is also important. The final speaker for the proposition was President Emeritus Daniel McCormick HLM. He swore 4 times, and he was his 4-ball support. He asked how the opposition could argue in, quote, patently bad ideas. He then argued that they were doing it in bad faith. Then he decided to bring up the example of the KKK and said that they are the prime example of identity politics. Really a real bundle of joy last week. He argued that their beliefs show an example of identity politics leading towards hate and violence. He argued that throughout history, examples upon example of the embrace of identity politics by totalitarian regimes. He argued that it has led to genocide and hate. He argued that there is an antidote, universal human values, empathy, virtue and kindness, which you will not find in my minutes at all. Division is antithetical to such values. The final speaker for the opposition was Jocelyn Keenan. She swore 5 times. Are you going to up those numbers tonight? Good. I want my drink. Anyways, she mocked Donegal. She attacked the men in the room. Don't applaud. She argued that identity politics is not flawless, but it is a great system. She argued that divisions exist regardless of identity politics, but that it gives representation to marginalised communities. Then she said, quote, the horror of identity politics, I'm sorry, the core. And then she quoted socialist lesbian feminism, and I really lost track of what was going on at that point. I didn't write this, but apparently I wanted to die at this point. Questions were heard from Keir Swale, Neil Robertson and Noah Barnley. Following the debate and questions from the House, the vote on speaker ability took place. There were 16 votes for the proposition, 35 for the opposition and 7 abstentions, so by a tiny margin the opposition had it.
Now we move on to private members' business, where you can discuss anything that you saw in the news this week or you're just interested in. I'm Dermot.
Dermot Hall, HLM. I wanted to ask how anyone has a USB-C phone charger. My phone is at 4% and I quite need to charge.
Point of information.
Nobody's texting you.
Yeah, just respond.
Okay, I'll respond. For the record, Matthew McKagan, technically a member since 2014, probably the first time I've attended in about 2 years. Apologies. I have a USB charger. I'm currently using it because my phone's at 6%.
actually
Yes.
use?
Is this his
No, no,
old private
Is this
member?
use? Is this
I want to discuss the news. I wish to discuss the recent developments in Canada and by nature of that also India. Recently, the BJP, through their wonderful leader, well, wonderful being in a sarcastic tone, please come back for the minutes, ordered the death of a prominent Sikh leader, a Canadian citizen on Canadian territory. While the bombasticism of it would lead me to think that this is an act of war and death to India, I would suggest that I'd like to hear from the members their opinions on the legality of this issue and whether or not there should be sanctions against the Indian state force.
No one.
Murder is bad. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that, but like that's it.
I think it was terrible what the Indians did. I think this is now the time for war.
Do you condemn the Indians?
No, not that could be in trouble. But I think now is the time for war because it's been a long time since we've had a good world war. And I think it would be quite fun. So, that's another.
You've convinced them, Sean?
Anyone else on this? Caitlin?
Richie Sunak announced that the A levels is going to be changed. What does everyone think about the extra hours most students are going to get?
Well, it would bring it up to a leaving cert.
I'll go to Sam, then
Which isn't
Kira.
necessarily a good thing.
Yes, I think this is a bizarre step to take, given as our force meant go into doing what the equivalent of A levels, when it is quite well known that people are generally thick. People cannot be trusted to do any sort of higher education. Most people, of course, apart from our good selves. I do think that in a time where the government is ruling against all these what they call Mickey Mouse degrees, forcing people to do the equivalent of A levels seems to be funneling them further into university education at a time when we need tradesmen, people to do plumbing and joinery and building and everything, all sorts of stuff that isn't going to be achieved by doing maths and English until you're 18. So I think it's a bizarre step for a government that's been whinging about higher education for the best part of the last year.
Kira first.
Also, like from what I'm aware of it, they basically trying to make the A levels like you study more subjects as well, which just sounds like a terrible idea because you're essentially learning not that much about a lot of things and maths and English, which a lot of people are just intrinsically going to be terrible at. It reminds me of the time that I knew someone who tried to teach me coding, and he spent about 5 hours trying to teach me coding. I would like to say I'm vaguely intelligent, and like he was explaining it in such a complicated manner that I just couldn't get it. And he turned around and he was like, "Oh, but this is so simple. Everyone should get this." And this is just kind of reminding me of Rishi Sunak going to the entirety of the country, going to the entirety of the country. "Oh, maths, English, easy, you do that." No, not for everyone. I think people need to recognise that knowing maths and English to like a mad degree is not exactly necessary. I'm in a job where I barely count.
Could you state your name for the minutes? Full name,
Jacob. As someone who went through the Republic of Ireland's education system, I can confirm that it is an absolutely horrific idea, as we have to take 7 to 8 subjects where no one knew anything about any of the subjects. And I can tell you for a fact, some people might be good at English, some people might be good at maths, some people might be good at neither, and a lot are good at neither, so maybe don't make everyone do it.
At the back, could you state your name for the minutes?
As a current teacher, it's a terrible idea.
I'll go to Luke then.
Yeah.
Luke, Anthony, Patrick, Maguire. I think it's a terrible idea because most people are just not that intelligent to the point where to educate them to a degree that he would propose would be more of a punishment on the rest of their life. I think it would be better if less people were able to go to university and further education and maybe even read. And we could find just be under the thumb of the one organisation that I truly love. Not going to name everything else.
The Freemasons?
James, did you have something to say?
Yeah, as somebody who has a brother who's starting his AS level, I hate this because I'm going to have to revision with him. And there goes any seventh of my free time. So, no, I don't like this because he's not really going to do well.
Okay, I'll go Noah, then Dermot, and then we'll take a new point.
I mean, I think we can all see the polls and how it's projected. I think this is only really a case of Rishi Sunak's trying to pump out as many policies as he can to look like the Tory party are actually doing something. Because let's be honest, when it comes to the election, they're going to get fucked.
More apart.
Dermot?
I think that on the point of it being very similar to the Irish Republic, I think that it's important that we ought to not forsake the blue skies of Ulster. So I said that we ought to oppose this sanctimonious southern rubbish.
Here, here.
Our dear, beautiful United Kingdom.
Shame.
Are there any new points? Okay, thank you, Bishop.
Just an announcement, the Disabled Students Association is currently being set up by yours truly. So if you're a student with a disability, and that includes a physical disability, neurodivergent condition, mental health condition, or long-term health issue or chronic illness, please get in touch with me.
I just know what Roshi was going to say.
Hopefully everyone else will then as well. I'm also chair of association, so the Women's Student Association. If you identify as a woman, please come along or please send me a message and I'll sign you up. Thank you.
Okay. Any like current events stuff, please? Sam?
I don't think any more advertising.
Yes. Speaking of which, thank you for that. What does everyone think of this horrendous proposal by Mr. Sunak to raise the age of smoking every year?
I'm excited for smuggling to come back.
You, sorry, could you state your name for the minutes?
Ethan McBrady. Yeah, you know, I believe that people should be allowed to smoke, especially children. That's
Noah?
Surely this is grounds for a coup. I think we're all
Jacqueline?
I hope it does to smoking with prohibitions into alcohol.
I'll go Jonathan.
I think all forms of joy should be illegal.
Yes!
I'll go Kira and then Finton, you stuff something? Okay,
No,
Kira.
that's fine.
Okay, Kira, just
carry on.
I believe he's also trying to raise the price of alcohol, and to be quite blunt, we're depressed enough. We need some joys in our lives. And but he's here as well. But essentially, what was I going to say? Damn it, I've forgotten it. Yeah, but see the whole thing about banning the legal age of smoking. Yeah, it's definitely going to work because I'm definitely not claiming that the majority of people in this room start drinking before the legal age. Definitely not.
Sure not.
I know.
I didn't.
We're all criminals, I know.
Let the record show I didn't.
It's the fact that people can get wacky backy at the age of like 30. You know, it's not it's purely just for window dressing. It's not actually going to do anything.
Roshi, was your hand up?
Oh no, the Tories were the bad idea again.
Vote Tory.
I think what's really more concerning is that the media, the Tories, Rishi Sunak himself, has thrown out a dog shite from the podium, and the media has clipped in these wee soundbites, but underneath that was a really severe transgression of transphobia, which hasn't seen light since Maggie Thatcher, the Iron Lady Mission Rustin piece. So stood up and was extraordinarily for a party diary, which claims to have a lot of young gay Tories. I find it extraordinarily interesting the level of homophobia that was espoused by a Prime Minister of the state. It was disgusting.
Anyone on this? Anyone on this?
I think any comments made would lead to trouble, so.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Okay, we can take one more short piece of private member business. I'll go to Max.
In other slightly much better news, in a surprise shock to literally nobody, the guy who couldn't get elected to the House of Representatives 15 times has been kicked out by his own party. So I'm wondering, does the House want to celebrate this fact, or just like?
Does anyone have anything to say on it? Go Jacqueline, then Noah, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I genuinely couldn't believe that he eventually did get Speaker of the House, like after 15 times. I mean, come on, buddy, give up. Like, that's embarrassing at that point. But I just think it's funny more than anything. I'm not gonna lie. And his replacement banged the gavel like a kid who's playing with toys, and I really enjoy it because I think it's fun. Yeah.
No?
I think in a weird twist of irony, it was probably what he did was so moderate. All he did was go to Democrats and be like, look, these Republicans are going nuts, like, can you give us a hand here? And it just shows like the kind of brain rot that's taken hold of the Republican Party since Trump's been in charge, and they need to get rid of it because it's so unelectable.
Brilliant. Okay, right. So now we move on to President's Questions, where you have 5 minutes to ask me anything you want.
It's like the Three Musketeers.
I'll go to Finton first.
I request, on behalf of your office as president, you apologise for outlining why you wish to condemn Canada.
This is a lie. I didn't condemn Canada. I said I've condemned too many countries and I'm not going to condemn Canada.
Outline why you like Canada, please.
It's not. It's like the good America.
That's worse.
Okay, I don't know that. Noah?
If you won't condemn Canada, will you condemn India?
I can't do anything political, and I wouldn't do it even if I could. Okay, Dermot.
So, President Trump recently gave my favourite speech ever, which is somebody that does debating, is quite a high bar, in which he spoke about boats. He talked about how if he's in a sinking boat, he's sitting on a battery, and the water's starting to come in, and he knows he's going to get electrocuted, and he can get away, but there's a shark over there, he would choose to be electrocuted rather than eaten by a shark. Would you rather be electrocuted?
I think that, strangely, I think I could get the shark to like me enough to not eat me. Like, I think I have a better chance with the shark.
You didn't answer the question.
Okay, well, I'd rather get eaten by a shark anyway, it's funner.
Shame.
Okay,
Don't ask the question.
you can ask it if you
Don't
want.
ask the question.
Don't
ask the question.
No, I'm not going to ask that question.
Oh, right, okay.
No, I'm going to ask the one you know about, not. So at the pub crawl on Tuesday, our president here performed to a group of us of what she called a party trick, with a very deep voice singing.
Oh, this is terrifying.
I said to Tasha at the time that I'm going to ask her to do it for the benefit of the rest of the audience in today's debate. So I wondered, Madam President, if you could give us a rendition of maybe one of the songs you did on Tuesday, but for the rest of the House.
Dream, have that.
Oh my god. I regret everything. I dreamed a dream? You want me to sing I Dreamed a Dream in a man voice?
I'm too sexy, but I said Fred.
Okay, I'll do it. But, oh god.
I dream.
I can't do it. Any other questions?
That was the most terrifying thing I've ever heard.
In our discussion on the pub call on the Tuesday, you mentioned that each speaker may have their own entrance song.
Is that something that the president would consider?
See, we would do this if we had McMorty Hall, which we could have Tom on piano, and he is available for requests. And he will learn any song you want, specifically Meatloaf. Any other questions? One more, just, I'll go Matthew.
So why don't you have breakfast?
So there was like a fire, and on top of the fire, there was like one of those spits, and there was just a massive cow rotating on it, and I just had that.
The fire was
That's where Cormac is tonight.
Really? Okay,
I think he's here.
Now we move on to the vote of prior opinion. So if you believe that religion is a force for good and you side with the proposition tonight, please raise your hand now.
You will be judged.
No, you will be.
Rather than voting.
Just calculate it.
4, 5,
15,
6,
16.
7,
16.
May God rest you all.
14, 15, I'll take it.
Oh.
How much is there?
16. And if you side with the opposition, you don't believe that religion is a force for good, please raise your hand now.
Shame, degenerate.
Face, get them hands up.
Three for like we debate them so like
Roshi, get your hand up.
34. And if you would like to abstain on the motion, you're not sure, you haven't made your mind up, please raise your hand now.
Oh my goodness.
30%. I didn't realize you voted. That was 2 from you. I heard it.
I got 12. Could you, Mr. Secretary, please
Madam
read
Secretary, James.
the vote of prior opinion?
Sadly, there were 16 votes for aye, 32 people are going to hell. I think 12 Unitarians.
Okay, so before we start the debates, I'd just like to read the rules to you. Each speech is 7 minutes long. The first and last minute are protected time, which will be signalled by the bell over there, meaning you can only POI people in the middle 5 minutes. To POI, raise your hand and say point of information on that point, or just simply POI. Please keep your POIs to 10 seconds and no barracking, meaning we wait at least 15 seconds after giving a POI to give another one. Lastly, no swearing. It is now constitutional that if you swear, you will be fined a bottle of port, which our portmaster over there will come and get you.
Point of order. Apologies. It will mention of the word Jesus be considered unparliamentary language tonight.
Excuse the opposition, yes.
No, it's not unparliamentary, of course. Why are there so many questions?
We had a number of port fines that are still unpaid. Will we be chasing those up?
I'm sure Jacqueline will do her job and get those sorted for us. Anyway, with that, I would like to welcome, to open the proposition, Misa Gerard.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen and others of the House, I am here to argue that religion is a force for good, providing examples primarily from a Jewish perspective. However, it is worth noting that my argument is not limited to this one religion, for the Old Testament forms the basis of a multitude of faiths. Judaism has made significant historical contributions to ethics, morality, and social justice. The Ten Commandments found in the Torah provide a clear moral code that has influenced legal systems and ethical principles in many societies, emphasizing values such as honesty, respect, and the sanctity of life. For example, the commandment, "Thou shalt not murder," underscores the importance of preserving human life. In addition, this ethical foundation has played a vital role in shaping not only Jewish society, but also the broader moral fabric of our world. In addition to this, the Jewish concept of tikkun olam, fixing the world, along with that of tzedakah, charity, have inspired numerous charitable organisations and initiatives aimed at addressing social issues such as poverty, hunger, and education. Religious teachings also play a valuable role in guiding individuals through life's ethical dilemmas. with Judaism offering guidance in areas such as business ethics, medical ethics, no thank you, and interpersonal relationships. For instance, the principle of pikuach nefesh, saving a life, has informed ethical decisions in healthcare, promoting the prioritisation of human life and promoting a woman's right to choose in the case of abortion.
On that point.
No, thank you. Religion may also be linked with inspiring positive change, with many individuals having been inspired by the Jewish faith to make positive contributions to society, whether through art, science, politics, or humanitarian work. Judaism in particular contains a long-standing tradition of encouraging social justice activism. For example, Jewish activist Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement, while Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a Jewish Supreme Court justice, famously advocated for gender equality and civil rights, demonstrating the Jewish values of compassion and justice. No, thank you. Religion may also be found to be a force for good in regard to personal well-being, as faith may support a person's mental and emotional health by providing a sense of purpose, hope, and resilience in difficult times. In fact, studies have shown that individuals who engage in regular religious practices, including prayer and meditation, often report high levels of life satisfaction and lower levels of stress. This may be in part due to the role religion plays in fostering strong, supportive communities. Religious congregations may provide a sense of belonging and support for individuals, fostering a sense of community and responsibility, while places of worship and community centres provide spaces for individuals to come together, promoting a sense of belonging and support. In addition to this, these communities often organise events and activities that promote unity and social cohesion. Religion also plays a crucial role in preserving cultural heritage, traditions and languages, contributing towards cultural diversity and richness. In the case of Judaism, Jewish religious practices and traditions help preserve the Yiddish language, Jewish cuisine and cultural heritage among Jewish communities around the world, without which we would not have bagels. Now, to address some of the arguments anticipated from the opposition. First up, religious extremism. While it is crucial to acknowledge that religious extremism does exist, it is by no means the norm. I would like to emphasise that it is a distortion of religious teachings rather than a reflection of the majority of religious practitioners. The actions of a few extremists should not be used to condemn the broader religious community.
On that point.
No, thank you. In fact, many religious leaders and organisations actively work to combat extremism and promote tolerance. Next, conflict and division. While history has witnessed religious conflicts, it's essential to highlight the role that religious leaders and organisations have played in conflict resolution and peace building, having often served as mediators and peace advocates, promoting reconciliation rather than division. An example of a religious figure involved in conflict resolution may be that of Mahatma Gandhi, who utilised the Hindu principles of ahimsa, non-violence, and satyagraha, civil disobedience, no thank you, in order to peace British rule in India. Other figures who drew inspiration from their faith while involved in peace-building efforts may include Martin Luther King Jr., Desmond Tutu, and the Dalai Lama. Now, lack of empirical evidence. Some argue that there is a lack of empirical evidence for religion's positive impact. However, studies have consistently shown that religious involvement correlates with higher levels of life satisfaction.
On that point.
No thank you. Charitable giving and volunteerism. These empirical findings support the idea that religion is a force for good in society. Finally, secular ethics. Secular ethics, while often presented as a rational and objective approach to moral values, has its inherent limitations and drawbacks. One of the primary concerns is the absence of a transcendent moral foundation. In a secular framework, ethics is typically grounded in human reason and societal consensus, which can be subject to change over time and vary across cultures. This lack of an absolute, unchanging source of moral authority can lead to moral relativism, where what is considered right or wrong becomes fluid and arbitrary. Furthermore, secular ethics may struggle to provide a robust justification for moral duties and obligations. No thank you, as it relies on subjective human perspectives rather than a divine or absolute source. This can make it challenging to establish a universal moral framework that can guide individuals and societies in addressing complex ethical dilemmas. Ultimately, secular ethics may lack the depth and stability that a religious that a religious or metaphysical foundation can offer in grounding ethical principles. Our modern moral framework rests heavily on that laid out in the Old Testament, and I'm not aware of any society whose ethics have solely secular foundations. In conclusion, religion has proven itself to be a force for good in our world. While arguments favouring atheism do exist, they do not negate the positive impact that religion has had on individuals and society as a whole. As we consider the profound contributions of Judaism and other faiths, let us recognise that religion, when practised with love, compassion and a commitment to ethical values, can be a powerful force for good in our world. Thank you.
Very
be very interesting to hear about the good ethics of the Old Testament. If I wanted to sell my little brother into slavery, how much do you think I could get for him? Good evening, members of the House. I'm excited to be with you here this evening. Thank you. I'd like to briefly talk about materialism. Now, there are two kinds of materialism that we talk about. The first, as we all know, is philosophical materialism, which argues that ideas don't exist as independent forces, independent of material reality, or as disembodied mystical forces. And it was Karl Marx that once said, "Men sometimes get ideas inside their head, and they're so vivid that they then impute these ideas to an external existence of their own as some force out there." Religious groups also say they are anti-materialist. Anti-materialist in the sense that they are anti-consumerism. For even Jesus Christ himself said that it is hard for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Anti-consumerism is something that I think we all collectively and correctly identify when we talk about anti-materialism. If you look at holidays, for example, they're so hyper-commercialised and it almost sucks any meaning out of it. Now, religious groups say they are anti-materialist, but history and more contemporary society show that this is not the case. Take Martin Luther. Most known for his rebellion against Rome with the Reformation, but there was another side to him that is less widely known, and this was his more malicious aristocratic side. Because as we all know, God loves the rich, and in 1525, when peasants were starving, their lands were stolen from them, and kids were dying of starvation, rents were crushing families. Eventually, peasants had had enough, and they rose up in rebellion, and stormed castles, took them from German princes, and committees were formed, and they redistributed wealth. Even the German princes themselves said that what was happening at their own expense was a sign that what they were experiencing was a symptom of God's wrath. Not Luther, though. Luther said it was a form of blasphemy, and he repeatedly said the following, quote, "Everyone who can should smite, slay, and stab the peasants, secretly or openly, remembering that nothing can be more poisonous, hurtful, or devilish than a rebel. It is just as when one must kill a mad dog." Now, he, of course, quoted numerous Bible passages to justify this type of barbarism. And the German princes, they didn't need much encouragement. They slaughtered around 100,000 people. Now, that number is generally agreed upon by historians and scholars. But I think that's enough of a history lecture. I'm sure you all get the picture. Religion is still a nasty influence in our politics. Take Northern Ireland, for example, as its own. For years, same-sex marriage wasn't passed, in spite of the fact that most of the Northern Ireland Assembly wanted to. The DUP used their ability to use the petition of concern to absolutely cut it from the legislative table, saying it would be bad for the country, as marriage is between a man and a woman. Now, I find it really strange that people... No. I find it strange that, leaders should get up there and say that they believe in some Jewish bloke who died 2,000 years ago and is going to come back and it's going to be a great party unless you don't believe him, and then you're going to die by fire. They're going to get up there and say that this is the way we should legislate, but also, like Edwin Hood, say that Earth is 4,000 and dinosaurs don't exist. Now, I know it's a bit more humorous, but it's still such an awful idea that just because you hold an individual belief in yourself that you can that you can exercise that right to infringe on another person. Religious bodies are also hyper-capitalist by taking as much money as they can. For example, a church in 2022 was discovered to have a rainy day fund from a stock portfolio in excess of over $100 billion. Now, the justification for this was that a spokesperson from this church said that they use a biblical tradition called tithing, where you give a tenth of your belongings. Typically it was cattle, but nowadays it's a tenth of your money. This is akin to attack from this group, as it is a requirement to participate in the higher sacraments of that organisation. But to talk in a more broad social sense, we can see it's obvious that religion is not a force for good when we observe in places like Saudi Arabia, where LGBT people are thrown off of buildings and women are stoned to death for being raped. These hyper-radical regimes led by religious despots, they're not exactly the pinnacle of egalitarianism.
On that point?
No, and equality for all. If you look at Christianity as well, it's strange for a religion that's supposed to preach tolerance and acceptance and loving your neighbour, but their followers do such a poor job of reflecting that.
On that point?
No. Don't let the proposition fool you, everyone. They can't say today religion is a force for good in the world because it's demonstrably not true. They're going to appeal to history, like Misha did. And it's evident that religion has been the vehicle to enact crimes against humanity. It's an instrument to use the banner of faith to repress people and make them conform to standards they wouldn't necessarily follow. No. Remember, one justification used for the transatlantic slave trade was the Mark of Cain theory, and that people of colour were morally inferior to white people. Religion's influence is so pervasive today that even mocking certain groups, like what happened with Charlie Hebdo, we all know what happened. Someone in Charlie Hebdo drew a cartoon picture of Muhammad and a bunch of radicals went and shot the building up and killed them all. No. Now, while I condemn the French, I think that goes a little bit far, and I really would hope you all agree Now, religion can be a good thing to bring connection and meaning to someone's life, and I think I can speak for the entire opposition. We've got no problem with people who just want to have their faith and they want to practice it for themselves, as long as they're not imposing it on others. And the same way goes for a more secular person.
On that point.
No. But it's not a good force in today when it doesn't directly oppress people like in Iran or Myanmar. It infects our politics with conspiracy theories about how the elites are all Satan worshipping paedophiles and the only solution are populists armed with God's righteous judgment. I dispute this, and I hope that you will join me in quoting Dermot Hamill. I rebuke the proposition. In closing, I would like to leave you all with a quote from my favourite TV nihilist, Russ Cole. And he said, if the only thing keeping a person decent is the expectation of divine reward, then brother, that person is a piece of shit. Vote with the opposition, thank you.
Thank you, Noah, for that brilliant speech. And I'd like to welcome His Grace.
Bishop of Kildare.
Everybody gives a hail.
Madam President, Mr. Secretary, honourable members, and the seemingly omnipresent Mr. Hoey. First of all, to fit my title, I have in fact prepared a separate tie, if I can get this one off.
That was for all bits.
First of all, before getting into the issues that I wish to raise, I'd like to quickly speak about your speech. You were when you're referring to this rising up of the peasants and the wonderful communist Marxist sort of yip-de-doo, we're all going to join the union and we're saved, was in fact referring to the Anabaptist dominion of Munster, the Tauferreich von Munster, which I will remind you was a theocratic state founded by none other than the Anabaptists, during which the Prince Bishop used the Prince Bishop used women. Oh, next slide, please. By the way, used the women of the region as sex slaves. If you're to argue that this is some sort of secular moral high ground that you have by Martin Luther rebuking the heathens. Oh, my wonderful my collar is falling down. I'll leave it. You all know I'm the bishop. But during the speech, I just want to actually refer to the Bible as you did as well, particularly with the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 22, verse 21. They say unto Caesar, then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things which are God's. We have a situation here where we're trying to define what is secular and what is religious, and therefore the benefits from which it stands. We also need to acknowledge that there is severe abuses within the church. I'm not going to stand here and defend the various horrors that have been inflicted by or against religious communities. As St. Paul in his letter to the Romans chapter 3 verse 23, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God.
On that point.
Has it been a minute? Please.
You can talk about how there's been faults and there's failings, but it literally says there's advocacy in the Bible for genocide. How can you defend that?
Yes, indeed. You started quoting The West Wing earlier. As pointed out by Misha in her speech, we are looking at. You have to distinguish that there is once more fallibility.
I don't think genocide is just fallibility.
The reliance on that is that we realise that at the core, what is the religious community providing to us, and the fact that the religious community actually, in fact, are one for St. Augustine of Hippo, has provided an awful lot. Perhaps the scientific method, which was developed further by the Catholic Church, we'd like to have a quick look at that. Equally, can I just carry on just for a second? Sorry. We also need to look at actually what religion does within the community. Recently, my late cousin passed away this August, And I was amazed by the calm, really, that the litany can install in a person. We had, there were some 2,000 people came to his wake, during which the rosary was said, not continuously, obviously that would be crazy. But the fact that we managed to maintain the calm amongst a vast community of people through some guise of religion shows that there is at least some good to come of the church. The church, regardless being that the Church of Ireland, or in Ushing's case, the Roman Catholic Church, or, well, refer to Judaism as a church would be disingenuous, I don't want to say that. But equally, when you talk about this issue of the materialism and Christmas, you were implying Christmas. I do Christmas has become a secular festival in the same way that most of the people that write the Christmas hits these days are indeed Jewish, which just shows that perhaps there's something that is not quite right regarding the meaning of Christmas as a religious celebration and the moral implication of that, and the materialistic please go buy some plastic for your child way of going about it. So despite the secular views of the opposition, we need to look unto our deities to advise. There are just simply certain things that cannot be solved within our world. And I'm not suggesting that we can put in whatever fairy tale that we so choose, but sometimes that works. I have struggled from time to time, and meanwhile something knocking the back of my head has allowed me to sit down and say, perhaps God isn't all bad, and given me some sense of peace. The churches of the world do that for many people. Indeed, they have caused great harm, but the harm they've done, the good they've done outweighs their harm, and we can see that. Yes, you were nice.
How can you verify that? Like, what's your objective for saying that the religion that come on someone because they're homosexual is somehow a lesser evil than some because it provides them meaning?
Well, as a homosexual in the Church of Ireland. Let me finish. I simply say, like and welcome. As I did mention to you in Romans 3:23, for all have sinned and all fall short of the glory of God. There is quite simply a difference that we need to decide between secular cultural issues and religious cultural issues. We have spoken previously about the impact that the Ten Commandments has had on our society, but we also can view this in sort of a anthropological, pseudo evolutionary way regarding same-sex relationships. That the reason why this was perhaps such a big thing was simply to grow the populations of their churches. The Mormons would know quite a lot about that.
I'm a Mormon, that's me, he's referencing me.
So, if we consider various things such as at least some bit of peace, some bit of order in a world in which is very tumultuous, and allowing for some sense of peace in a time which is extremely difficult, and then the benefits of the church is brought through not forgetting our wonderful charitable discussions, but equally in terms of the world of science, the world of academia. I need not remind you that the first universities were indeed theological colleges for the studying of canon law. And as university students, I'd imagine you all quite like it. Stop ringing the bell! I'm not finished yet, Talsa. Summarize. I was reaching the end, and now you've interrupted me. I should go on for another 8 minutes, just despite you. We provided through it, despite the grievous faults of the church, we have allowed. Do not knock that hammer. Despite the church, we've managed to build the world in which we live in, which I would also say this university isn't all bad. And we rely on that, frankly, a lot to the church. And with that, I close.
Thank you for that extremely long speech. Vincent, and I'd like to welcome Ella Griffiths as second. I did not just kick the table. I mailed
Durkheim defines religion as a unified system of beliefs that and practices relative to sacred things. I've chosen to be on the opposition side to that religion can be considered a force for good, as I don't believe it can be considered good when it's associated with so much hurt, hatred and harm towards society. I think firstly we need to consider when arguing that religion is a force for good, that's arguably a very westernized view. The idea that religion brings good and comfort to people around the world is not true in a lot of cases.
Based.
Speaking on the topic of homosexuality, homosexuality was criminalised because of religion. It started with Henry VIII's separation from the Catholic Church in 1533, where he created the Buggery Act. This made sodomy illegal. Whilst the law applied to everyone, it was mostly same-sex acts that were targeted. And this law underpinned years of homophobia and years of homophobic laws to come. Lucky enough, in the UK, homosexuality was decriminalised in the most part from 1967, and gay marriage was legalised in 2013. However, this is not the case around the world. There's only 34 countries around the world where gay marriage is legal. It's illegal in 70 and punishable by death in 11. For example, in Mauritania, any adult Muslim man who commits an indecent act or an act against nature with an individual of his sex will face the penalty of death by public stoning. The death penalty. Two other famous cases of the death penalty are John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy. Are we really arguing that punishing a man for having romantic relations... No, thank you. For having romantic relations with another man, not even necessarily sex, is a force for good when we punish them the same way that we'd punish a serial killer?
On that point.
No, thank you. Similar can be said about abortion. Whilst abortion was decriminalised and criminalised by the Catholic Church until 1869, all abortion was declared murder in 1869 by the Catholic Church, which has been reinforced by the current Pope. Commenting on the partial overturning of Roe v. Wade, a director of the National Catholics Bioethics Centre commented on a 10-year-old girl having to cross states for abortion. He said that responding to her trauma by offering second-hand trauma makes no sense. When this happens to other young girls, they will often look back on what has happened and express the relief that they were not offered the chance to destroy their own child, and that all the victim really needs is love, compassion and hope. I'd like to emphasise this was a 10-year-old rape victim. When I was 10, my main worries were the best trade I could get for my fruit wine jar at lunch and trying to get my mum to pay for Cartoon Network on the TV. She never did. Those should have been my only worries because I was 10. I'm 19 now and I still can't imagine the trauma of having to birth and raise a rapist child. So I really don't see how we can argue that beliefs that underpin forcing a 10-year-old girl to have a child through no fault of her own can be considered a force for good. Homosexuality and abortion have something in common. No matter how much you dislike them, in most cases, it does not affect you. Don't like an abortion, don't get one. Don't want to marry a man? No, thank you. Don't want to marry a man? I'm not forcing you to. But to take away those rights from other people is why I fundamentally think religion cannot be considered a force for good. Especially when it comes to gay marriage. It is so utterly pointless being against it. For example, I hate milk. I think people who enjoy a glass of cold milk are disgusting and immoral people. But do I impose a law against them? No, because as much as I... Is it about milk?
Yes. You don't have the power to impose a law against them.
Not yet.
Unfortunately not. Yes, the sight of milk revolts me, but it doesn't affect me. So who am I to take away other people's enjoyment of it?
On that point?
Yes?
So by going through that logic where you think it's okay that you're disgusted by the sight of milk, but like you're okay to tolerate it, therefore is it by that logic okay to be disgusted by the sight of gay people but still tolerate it?
I think... You know the principle of don't say something unless it's nice? I think... do not make it someone else's problem would be I don't think it's right to be disgusted by gay people, but I think if that's something that you've been brought up to believe, then keep that to yourself.
It's getting really hot in here.
I also think a big reason religion cannot be considered as a force for good is because it imposes its views upon people. And it also prevents the teaching of other views. For example, in 1925, Tennessee passed the Butler Act. This prohibited the teaching of any doctrine that denied the divine creation of a man that was not taught by the Bible. This led to the trial of John T. Scope, 24-year-old science teacher who worked with the ACLU to challenge this law. Scope admitted to using a textbook that supported evolution when covering a biology class, which was enough for him to be charged guilty under the law.
Point of information.
No, thank you. If something is such a force for good, shouldn't it just be able to let other people believe what they want to believe without censoring other teachings? And on the mere basic grounds of respect, a force for good should let people believe what they want to believe, as long as it's not harmful. No, thank you. As long as it's not harmful and offensive to other people. No, thank you. Another reason that has been brought up by the proposition is that religion can be considered good because it leads to a lot of charity work. However, not all religious charity work has been good charity work. No, thank you. Take the Salvation Army, for example. I'm not denying that it helps the homeless and it's good, but these foundations are deep-rooted in homophobia. Yes, they do help out LGBTQ people, but the founders are also against homosexuality. In 2012, a spokesperson says it goes against the will of God. In 1998, they refused San Francisco law introducing domestic partnership benefits because they'd have to provide healthcare to unmarried and homosexual couples. In 2001, they tried to strike a deal with the Bush administration, making it easier for government-funded religious groups to practice hiring discrimination against gay people. In 2017, the Salvation Army's Substance Abuse Center in New York refused to accept trans people as patients. Surely, if something is such a force for good, it would help you regardless of your identity. It would help you regardless of you going against their beliefs. On closing, I would like to say I'm not imposing my view like religion does. If you've had anything that's made you doubt that religion could not be considered a force for good in this debate, then I'd like you to vote against the House. Thank you very much.
Yay!
Oh, it's good to be back. Right. As many of you will have realised, I've taken the collar off because the reason for that is it is a symbol of nothing but popery.
Excuse me?
So we're going to deal with a few issues before I get into the crux of my Paisley out speech. The point of slaughtering people in the names of religion. Lenin loved to slaughter people, but he also would have loved his secular society. He also had the point of banning homosexuality. The USSR did that under Stalin, and he also outlawed quite a bit of religion. Roots in homophobia. Dr. Martin, we don't talk about his roots, but we still buy their shit. And also Oxfam, they're a charity, they're kind of cunts.
Point of clarification.
It's not one minute.
Just clarification.
Oh.
Dermot's trying to paint us as communists. None of us made that argument.
Actually, you brought up Marx plenty of times.
Espousing
the values of Marx. So, and also, you pointed out religious societies, I pointed out secular society. You see, no, in a debate, you make a point, and then I make a point. Now, an interesting point in the way this debate works is that all we have to do is prove that religion is a force for good, as is fairly natural. Which should be fairly easy because all we have to do is find really one or two examples of how religion can be kind of nice, whereas they have to refute all of it. Which
on that point.
No, thanks. Now, they pointed out plenty of issues with the Catholic Church and the Mormon Church and all the other weird churches. They didn't deal with one church, the Free Presbyterian one. The reason behind that is because they know that the Free Presbyterian Church is infallible. Because my friends, what they seek to offer you is an affront to true God-given Christianity. As delivered in the Sermon from the Mount
by the very Reverend Dr. Ian Paisley, former MLA. They will offer you nothing but damnation. They will have you absolutely not. They will seek to drag you down to hell with nothing but their atheism and their occasional popery. This papist plot.
You can't make me.
What church are you baptized in?
My parents were nothing but papists. And they sought to take me without my consent and dunk me in the waters of that foreign, broken, wrong church.
On that point.
What?
Are you just doing it because you fancy Protestants but you fancy Catholics?
Yes. They offer you nothing but damnation. They seek to tear us down, to tear our moral fibres down. Take a walk up the Ravenhill Road, my friends, and you will find the true centre of proper Christianity. You will find Murder's Memorial Church, the place at which the true Vatican for our faith, the one true Reformed faith. I've got my arms up and you're not taking photos now. What are you on?
Don't give them the photos.
Be quiet. The Free Presbyterian Church is what will save us all, my friend. It is the true force for good. We will give you a force for good because that is what the Free Presbyterian Church offers us. Listen, his church is all rubbish. I think what Misha believes is almost there but not quite. And Sam is nearly there because he's a presby, but he's not the right kind. So tonight, my friends, I invite you.
On that point.
Well, I'll take a wee fill at the back.
So what do you think of the Muslims then? Because they're all from the Catholic line.
Serious point and a joke speech.
What do you think of Muslims? My least favourite POI. For the sake of the fact that if I ever travel abroad, they'll fuck me off a roof. I'm shelving that one.
On that point.
No, Darby.
I actually showed my appreciation for the Jewish faith, so please don't. You're quite tall. So, back to my point before that attack.
On that point?
No!
Let him speak.
They would attempt to drag us down, to try and paint me as a false prophet, as a devil. They are nothing but usurpers of the true faith, with all of their silly beliefs, they may talk about homosexuality to blind you with their false morality. That is what they do. Their false sense of the true, proper church. That is what they will do to you. So my friends, tonight you have an opportunity to save us all, to save this true world, to show how good of a force religion is.
Oh God.
Tonight you have the opportunity to vote with the proposition, to free us all from their devilry, the four horsemen of the apocalypse sit at this table with their funny hair and glasses. So my friends, tonight, vote with the proposition.
Darn it, what the hell? Thank you, Ian Paisley.
I don't want to follow that, Jesus Christ. Where were you whenever, like, the unionists actually needed somebody to speak for them? They were like,
£10 an arm for you.
Right, religion has often been used by the elites of our society to keep the poor content and prevent them from questioning the way of life. That is, we have been taught from thousands of years ago, whenever the first king was crowned by a pope, that this is going to be the order of life. Pope, then the king, then the archbishops, and then the poor. Everybody else, they don't matter. Okay? We don't matter. But this is why the first emperor of France famously stated that religion is the only thing that keeps the poor from being absolutely massacred by the rich. But in French, obviously. Go ahead.
You're a massive conservative monarchist.
Pardon?
You're a massive conservative monarchist.
And also hate religion. You can do it both ways, as I hear that you have gone for.
American.
Some of the bloodiest conflicts in our world have been fought over religion, such as the 30 Years' War, and often forgotten about what? Often forgotten about horrifying conflict that predated, no thank you, World War I, but it was considered just as bloody as the 30 Years' War, was the longest and most destructive conflict in European history, lasting from 1618 to 1648, apart from the 100 Years' War, because I don't really count, because it's just France getting murdered. What?
First of all, 30 Years' War, that was not exactly about religion, it was used as an excuse.
But exactly, it has been used as an excuse in order to rally support. So it is, religion has been used. Religion has been used to gather support. To gain support for kings. Kings that have been absolute tyrants. And as a democracy in the Magna Carta, obviously freedom of religion was put down. Fucking hell. To try and stop the king's power over the people using religion in that way.
Point of information.
Thank you.
I was living.
No, thank you.
Denied it.
It was estimated that 4.5 to 8 million soldiers and civilians died as a result of battle, famine, and disease during the 30 Years' War. An estimate suggests that there was about 20% of Europe's population dying. No, thank you. Between disagreements of denominations of Christianity, it was between Protestants and Catholics, like we are all so familiar with. No, thank you.
Bargain.
Religion has held back women's rights in Europe, which has not really been brought up today. Hence the Bible often portrayed Eve as weak and corruptible, and actually now modern religion has completely negated another figure who was before Eve, who actually was quite strong and powerful, but rejected Adam and God's creation. And therefore has been used to try and make women seem bad and weaker and lesser than men as part of the devil. Due to no, thank you. Due to Jesus and his disciples being exclusively male, Christianity has stopped women from participating in the church and discriminates against women by only allowing men to be popes and priests.
On that point.
No, thank you. Even to this day, the Free Presbyterian Church still segregates women separate to men, and requires them to wear hats indoors. We're like, why? A lot of women have very lovely hair.
They're very nice hats.
I'm not even responding. Other bloody conflicts due to religion also includes the Crusades, which I don't want to get too much into because it's still basically going on to this day. Which, no thank you, has killed about 6 million people over, I think it's about 14 different crusades, including 2 that included just children. That religion had rallied child sport to just send them off to the Holy Lands to die for
Poor kids.
Poor kids in the Holy Lands.
Those poor kids in Fitzroy.
In order to fight over or obsess over holy relics and sites which are uneven or not known even if they are accurate, as there has been so many pieces of the cross given out over history. If you actually look at it, where the hell, like, how big was this cross? No, thank you. You can wear one next time if it's so big then. Religion has got in the way of scientific achievements as well, and has been used as justification for censorship of ideas. Quite famously, the church was outraged, no thank you, as Charles Darwin, after he released his theory of evolution, and Nicholas Copernicus, which I can barely pronounce, who discovered the Earth rotated around the Sun, was criticised by the Church, causing the ideas to not be accepted for over a century, stopping astronomy and our exploration of the stars, which we could be a type of civilization by now if we possibly had started a century earlier. Go ahead.
So how would you justify the massive advances made during the Islamic Golden Age by Muslim scholars?
I would. Is it because of this area's position in trade and wealth? Like every area on Earth has had their golden age, despite being religious or not. It has nothing to do with your religion. If we unless it's actually usually religion that will block scientific advancements rather than forget or help them. The Church's way of selling faith is backed as well has been set a bad precedent for humanity, in which precedent has necessary in court dealings, such as the witch trials, which has killed up to 200,000, between 2,000 and 100,000 people during 1415 to 1750, which were just women, which basically were actually quite smart and intelligent, and often were producing scientific ideas, were seen as horrible people who should be murdered for some reason, because it was a threat to the Catholicism's grip on society. The Catholic Church has also been involved in several cases, possibly covering up and protecting priests accused of sexual assault, which I don't really want to get too much into. Religion has also been used to have advocate violence against minorities. And across the world we have seen the majority of people descend upon the minority groups, such as in the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is formerly Persia, where the Shias, where the Sunni used to be in charge of the country, and were running it obviously on their religious grounds until the Shia Muslims obviously overthrew them, but then started persecuting all religions and gay people and anybody who didn't agree with the state, such as my friend Maz, who's actually had to flee from this totalitarian state because of the injuries for him being a homosexual. And now I want to move on to the opposite, or the proposition. Thank you.
How do you build it, think it is? Hello. Madam President, Madam Secretary, ladies and gentlemen of the House, and of course, Michael Dukakis. First of all, I'd like to start by disassociating myself entirely with the rambling sermon of the Reverend Dr. Dermot Hamill, who did doing some sort of Stars in Their Eyes tribute of the Reverend David McElveen. What? I especially requested that, I would like to say. Tonight I wish to argue that not only is religion a force for good, but that it is the rock on which morality itself is built. Now, to quote Mr. Noah Barnley in Private Member's Business, murder is bad.
Yes.
Indeed. Now, while all of us would hopefully agree with this noble sentiment, apart from Mr. Barnley himself, who I'm sure is now eating those poorly chosen words.
On that point?
If you must.
I am.
Good. You've made me lose my place. Yes. Shut up. However, I do have to ask him why. Why is murder wrong? Surely every murder has a reason behind it.
On that point?
No.
On that point.
You're on my side. No. Indeed, the murderer may well argue that it was necessary to take the life of another to achieve their own ends. Surely without any higher morality, it can be easy to argue that murder is not only morally justified, but is and easy to eliminate, is not only morally justified, but is an easy and convenient way to eliminate those who, I don't know, eat tuna sandwiches on the bus, or people who generally annoy you.
On that point?
Yes.
So if one person says murder is bad and one person says murder is good, and they both say that God told them, how do you reconcile that because it's both presuppositionalism? How do you resolve it?
Because the Bible, the Old Testament, the Bible, which is the basis of Christianity, Judaism, plenty of other faiths have the same rules. Thou shalt not kill. It's a fairly clear-cut argument. Anyway, yes. C.S. Lewis once said in his now famous book, Mere Christianity, a man does not call a line crooked unless he has some idea of a straight line. The idea being that religion is the only thing that stands between society based on morality and equality, and that based on subjective and fluid ethics made to suit those... No, go away! To suit those who enact it. This is of course underscored in the immortal words of Matthew 7:12, which states that, therefore all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. This is the... No! Taking points from McKieran. With this in mind, I shall go through the arguments of those members of the Shar, those who have spoken so far, that is. Of course, Jonathan's argument, I'd imagine, would come from the fact that given that he went to a church in Dundonald, he will not see the beauty of God's creation. First of all, of course, your good self. So, has the ding gone yet? I can't tell how much that bloody typewriter or not. Yes, despite trying to use America's greatest president, Mr. Jeb Bartlett, to dig yourself out of a hole, your points have been, what's the word?
Silly.
Silly! Silly is the word. Yes, stabbing peasants. Obviously against the teachings of any major religion, whatever. Yes?
Does Jonathan in religion, does that matter? If religion is sort of deciding factor of stabbing peasants, surely the point of what religion says is the second.
If I use a plate of tripe to justify killing someone, does that make a plate of tripe evil in the eyes of society? No, it does not. Yes. No. Religious extremism and human greediness are inevitable, but cannot be used for justification for writing off religion as something that is inherently bad. Where am I? On their horses. Exactly, and there is a circular form to your argument, in that you talk about the abuses of the church, churches doing bad things and people doing bad things in the name of religion. How do we know that those things are bad in any meaningful sense? Religion itself. What?
Do you not think...
No, sorry, Roisin.
Would you seriously just ask how do you know those things are bad?
Without religion. Without religion.
Without religion, I don't need to be religious to know the rape of children is bad.
Not specifically what I was referring to, but yes, whatever. You. In terms of... Yes.
He's nice at the pub, he's nice at the pub.
Yes, I am sometimes, not to you. When you talk about religious groups being against homosexuality, of course there have been many, many abuses of that and disgraceful persecution which could never be defended. But it's worth mentioning that not all religious groups oppose gay marriage and homosexuality in general. Yes.
Isn't it look technically a Christian organisation?
No, it isn't. Anyway, gay marriage in the US and the UK were both brought in by religious men, with David Cameron having previously stated that he wanted to bring God back into politics. There's also other groups. The C of E is currently having its little infighting, whether or not to argue in favour of gay marriage. They can't decide, but hopefully they'll decide rightly. Presbyterians in Scotland and the USA and Episcopal churches around the world. And also, you're disgusted by the sight of milk. How much more evidence do you need? Anti-religious people are morally bankrupt. Also, you're attacking the Salvation Army. The Salvation Army, who have had the nicest sausage rolls that I have ever eaten in my life at my aunt's funeral. And Pat, of course. Lovely hair aside of three Presbyterian women. An argument can be brought from 1 Corinthians 11:12 that states, for as the woman is of man, even so the man also by the woman, but all things of God. Underscoring that everyone is equal in the eyes of God in that particular faith. So, to conclude, it seems to me clear that all the opposition has brought you so far, stop ringing the bell, is circumstantial and scattered evidence of religion being bad. Religion is clearly a force for good. Please vote for the proposition.
I'd like to welcome Jonathan Durania to close the opposition.
That was a lovely speech from both the opposition and the proposition. Just to counter Misha's points and Sam, who has left us, when God commanded the Jews to racially exterminate everyone in the land of Jericho, man, woman and child, one may state that perhaps there is a degree of racial exclusivism and Judaism and, in instance, Christianity when Jesus called Gentiles dogs. However, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have heard the proposition define their understanding of what is good and try to provide evidence based on their specific understanding of it to postulate an objective truth claim that religion is a force for good. Well, how can we verify that affirmation? After all, it's a positive truth statement, and it is imperative for you as the audience to have a framework which has not been provided by the proposition to assess evidence made by both sides in debate. It's not my goal tonight to try and prove religion is a force for bad or evil. The burden of proof is on the proposition, after all, to verify their assertion. And may I add, such burden of truth is particularly high given the contention surrounding the evidence and the meaning of good. No, thank you. What I seek to demonstrate is that when we assess religions based on their objectivist notions of the highest good and the obligations derived thereof, the exclusivity of various religious doctrine would suggest that one cannot, if a particular religion is true, state the claim that religion is a force for good with a high degree of probability, which is needed given such a high burden of truth. Who stated that? Go ahead.
Since we're talking about a spiritual thing, shouldn't we take a spiritual approach to the whole thing rather than your scientific, mathematical formula?
Actually, you will find that I will elaborate that in my speech. Thanks for the point. What I seek to demonstrate is when we assess religion based on objective notions of the highest good and the obligations derived thereof, the exclusivity of various religious doctrine would suggest that one cannot, if a particular religion is true, state the claim that religion is a force for good with a high degree of probability. Likewise, when we move away from the objectivist revealed truth to the subjective realm, we have no final arbiter to provide a verdict that religion generally acts as a force for good, or even define what good is, in which case it would seem better to assess religion and how well it facilitates certain ends, such as societal ordering, which we can assess with more confidence empirically than fluctuating definitions and weightings. No, thank you. For clarity, I wish to utilise a simple definition for religion. It must entail belief in super-empirical beings or powers, possess ethical norms, worship rituals, and provide a means of distinction. And when talking about religion, we're not confining it to a specific one, but rather religions overall. Next, let's clarify what's meant by force for good. By the nature of how we utilise language, force for good ought to be understood as an assessment of how that force brings about the good overall, rather than a force bringing about an isolated good whilst dismissing other impacts. Moving forward, I'd like to explain what the highest good is according to the Abrahamic faiths. God. God is the greatest good. This entails a degree of responsibility to mankind, and that is to serve Him. It's our greatest moral obligation. These scriptures do elaborate ways to attain this end by acting on lesser goods. Lord, when do we see you hungry and feed you? Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. This may imply religions can recognise others as a force for good, as they too promote such lesser goods, facilitating the highest obligation. However, you and I must understand how we're supposed to attain this end according to the largest religions, those in the Abrahamic tree. After elaboration, one will see that they are doctrinally highly exclusivist, and incorrect worship or misunderstanding of God is weighted so heavily as an egregious sin it cancels out the lesser goods. In the Islamic doctrines, one can cherry-pick snippets of Quran to state other Abrahamic faiths are positive, by virtue of them being people of the book. This doesn't extend to polytheists, which has been quite evident in the Islamic repression of the Dharmic religions, but I digress. When one looks more closely at the Islamic scriptures, one can see other faiths act in sin when trying to comprehend and worship God. One of the greatest reasons for which Allah has created humans is to affirm His oneness, Tawheed, and to worship Him alone with no partner or associate.
On that
Christians, yeah, go ahead.
Just moving back to your definition, the religion of Buddhism does not have a spiritual entity at the head, it focuses on reincarnation.
I will cover Buddhism later in the debate. Christians in their worship of the Trinity commit the grave evil of shirk by associating man with God, Surah At-Tabath 30, and thus undermine our ultimate end, the highest weighted good. Perhaps then this is why the death penalty is applied in many Islamic nations if one reverts from Islam to the religion of the Christians, Zoroastrians, or Jews.
Likewise, would a Christian be required to reciprocate this love and affection? 1 John chapter 2, verse 22. Who is a liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist that denieth the Father and the Son. So Judaism is Antichrist, Islam is Antichrist, Hinduism is Antichrist. But how then, if one is a Christian, can one state with a high degree of certainty that religion more broadly is a force for good, given such a serious transgression? Please go ahead.
There are many denominations in Islam that actually believe in Jesus Christ.
Right, okay, I'll quote some of the surahs here. So you've, sorry, I'll come back to that later in the debate once I find my papers. Moving on, perhaps then for the proposition's sake, it is better to move away from accepting that there is a greatest possible good, God who decides what is forced for good, through revealed instruction. We perhaps ought to determine whether religion overall then is a force for good by observing the general instruction provided for them and extrapolate the broad goods derived from this. For example, one can observe the religious doctrine more broadly and derive the commandments, enact justice, which is a good, and not to kill an innocent, which is an evil. Go ahead.
How do you actually find that these things are good without you just arbitrarily saying, I like them? It is religion, that's religion, John.
Right. Well, firstly, I've shown that religions have contradictory claims when you assess them against each other. Now moving towards a more secular version, which removes the greatest possible good. So, when we extrapolate religious doctrine more broadly, we can take Buddhism, for example, which is do not kill innocents, including humans and animals, and we can derive the sixth commandment from the Hebrew Bible, thou shalt not kill. But there are exceptions. If one isn't innocent, there are exceptions if one is not innocent. So we have utilised religion to get this commandment as a moral obligation. So, how well does religion live up to it? Well, who are the innocent? This may seem like a seemingly obvious statement, but religious specificities on who is innocent and who is not has seemed to create situations whereby the general commandment is broken by specific religious instruction. Take Leviticus 20:13. If a man has sexual relations with a man, they are to be put to death. Yet in the Vedas, male god Ashwini and Kumar are always referred to as a couple and never mentioned separately, even when they go to bed. So are homosexuals guilty or not? If yes, there's a problem. Other religions normalise immoral evil, undermining justice. But if not, certain religions have not acted as a force for good in this instance, acting unjustly by encouraging the murder of innocents. The problem here is, once we move away from a particular religious truth claim, we are to try and determine what we ought to do by what is stated as a supposed good or evil, based on Luke's point. But in the absence of a final decision maker, we cannot derive an ought from an is, as we each as individuals, we had certain goods higher than others when trying to make a final assessment. Based on this, can the proposition really be claimed with a high degree of probability that it's required by such a controversial claim that their interpretation of the good is more valid than yours? Only need 5 more seconds. If good is so variable in the absence of a secular religion being true, then it is even possible for religion to be a force for good being an objective truth claim. Perhaps then, when making a truth claim, we really ought to assess how religion is, how well it is, and performing specific functionalities and not a wishy-washy claim force for good. That's impossible to verify or falsify otherwise. Thank you.
Second round of applause for a maiden speaker. We have time for a short round of questions. So the way questions work is I'll open up questions for everyone, and one person from the proposition responds, then one person from the opposition responds. And an abstaining question. Means not for either side, it's just something very general. Do we have a question for the proposition? I'll go to you in the white jumper. Could you state your name?
Chloe Jacob. An argument valued by both sides today was that religion is the foundation for morality. How would you address the fact that altruism has been reported before reports of religion in society? Altruism and morality is indignant of beings and animals that have high enough consciousness to be able to care for each other. How do you account for that morality outside of religion?
Okay, proposition.
There's two ways of looking at it. One, by the grace of God, or we can simply show, in terms of humanity, we can show that it is still emergent in proto-religion, not necessarily what we would recognise as belonging to religion, but such things as leaving offering plates and the like have been around since before we were indeed Homo sapiens. This form of altruism, these offering plates, is the idea of the great good, and comes down to the earth god, which seems to be something that we kind of didn't really touch upon, about the god being one with earth and God being one with nature. This is indeed one such argument.
Opposition to respond?
God's not real, morals don't really mean anything, and nothing ultimately has value unless someone has arbitrarily assigned it that value.
Do we have a question for the opposition? No. I'll allow look just based on the fact that he's very religious.
He's been
with war.
Oh no. Matt, I know where he's going with this.
A German.
I know where he's going with this.
This was written 100 years before Never King of Power. Christianity, and this is its greatest merit, has somewhat mitigated that brutal German love of war, but it could not destroy it. Should that subduing talisman, the cross, be shattered by the frenzied madness of the ancient warriors, that the insane berserk rage of which the Nordic bards spoken and sung of so often will once more burst into flame, the talisman of the cross is fragile, and the day will come when it will collapse miserably. Then they will be born by Germany, and which will make the French Revolution look like an innocent dog in the park. Do you not see that it is the goodness of religion that actually brings people along? Because people are not born good, they're born flawed. They need something to improve them. People want to kill each other all the time. Anybody who is innocently naive, does not know the rules of the world.
Opposition.
People want to kill each other, yeah, sure, but people in religious bodies also want to kill each other, so I don't really see what your point is.
Yeah, like I don't get it. What do you like? If I have a religion or if I don't have a
Only
religion?
one person to respond. Okay, proposition.
That's a brilliant point. And they talked about, in their response, they talked about how people in religion simply, will kill each other.
Not in the Free Presbyterian Church. My view of religion. In our one true church and faith, we do not engage in such debaucherous, murderous, and awful activities, because we are the one truth. So yes, those flawed individuals, with their flawed versions of religion, will tell you of war. They will tell you of it all. But my friend, my dear Lucas, this is not what we do. Because we are the one truth. And we engage in such warful and wasteful activities.
Okay. Kira's the only one who knows how to do these, so I'm gonna go for that.
Right, so I think, a very important aspect of this debate, I think it's been touched upon, but I don't think focused on, is kind of the concept of, morality in terms of, and religion in terms of, which came first, the chicken or the egg, if that makes sense. So, there's, on one side, there's this aspect that morality exists without God because evolution actually encourages animals to work together in terms of bettering their chance of survival. But then there's this other side to it where it's like, no, we're actually people who want to murder, and we do things that are inherently kind of bad, if that makes sense, and religious kind of guides us away from that. So it's kind of, I just want you both to address this kind of aspect of which came first, the chicken or the egg, which came first, morality or God, essentially.
Proposition to respond first.
The proposition? We went first.
Yeah, that's not how it works.
I can do that again.
Can you half and half, one Carthenite and one serious?
Be quick, because it is 7 minutes to 9.
So what? They're not going anywhere. We're university students, got nothing better to be doing.
I have a job.
The idea that the chicken or the egg is realistically, I could say the grace of God again, but that seems not to work. So what I will say to that, just refer back to that, if there is a God, now I say if there is a God, there's some way of justifying on behalf of some very dodgy creation, as that perhaps there is one. And now Carson.
Oh god.
That is a perfect question. It's a spectacular one. Because what it does is it showcases us and them. Their full sense of, evolutionary morality. Where we have is the one true morality, which is God. And through God, the free Presbyterian Church.
Opposition.
I'd just like to ask, so the Presbyterian Church was founded about 1950. It's amazing here being morality didn't exist.
That is an excellent point. What happened before 1950? The First World War. The Second World War. The Years' War. The 30-Year War. All of the wars. What else happened? Collapse of things. Bad stuff.
What is your point, Donald?
Violence happened. What happened after? The Berlin Wall came down. The torturous totalitarianism of communism was destroyed. 9/11.
George Bush did it.
We have now seen that through the creation of the Free Presbyterian Church, the final acceptance of true morality by the people of Ulster.
My brain hurts.
Sum it up, please.
When we all truly accept.
Dermot, I want a pint, hurry up.
When we all truly accept the Free Presbyterian Church's teaching.
Opposition to respond now, please.
Okay, so to quote one of the early founders of psychology, Sigmund Freud, he believed. I'm not bringing up the mum point, don't worry.
Didn't he want to fuck his mum?
She was
It's not that point.
She was an elf.
He believed that the human mind was made up of the id, ego, and superego, and that governed our morality. So in answer to your question, I guess that I would say that morality came first, as I believe that came with people, that people are inherently born moral.
Okay, and that is all we have time for tonight. And we're going to move on to our vote on speaker ability. This isn't your own opinion. It is who you thought spoke best tonight, and anyone can vote on it. So if you think that the proposition spoke best tonight, please raise your hand now.
You can vote for yourself. I never vote for myself. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Vote for yourself,
Look at all you.
I got 31, but I couldn't see behind the door.
There's a couple.
Okay, then there's more behind the door. And if you think that the opposition spoke best tonight, please raise your hand now.
Yeepa.
I got 15. And if you think that they both spoke so well you can't choose, or they both spoke so badly that you can't choose, please raise your hand. No way, it's
Our friendship is fucking over. It's Jover here.
You can tell me about it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
11.
It's bad. It hurts people. I don't like it.
And could the secretary please read the vote on speaker ability?
So, on the motion at hand, everyone's forgotten by this point, there were 35 votes for the proposition, 14 votes for the opposition, and 11 abstentions, so by a margin similar by the West Tyrone, the proposition has it.
Everyone's going to Lavery's now, and if the speakers can come up for a photo, please.